Running fired. For reasons that we'll get into, Hogan has been scrubbed from WWE.com, his merchandise has been removed from WWE's shop, he's out of the Hall of Fame potentially, and his Legends contract has been terminated. So it seems like this list should consist of, well, basically everything he's ever done, but even before this scandal, Hogan has had a career stained with black marks, which, as we've discovered, Hogan would be very upset about. I'm Adam from Whatcultre.com, and here are 10 things WWE want you to forget about Hulk Hogan. Number 10, no holds barred. Hulk Hogan's movie career reads like the fever dream of a glue addict. Sure, his role in Rocky III was arguably responsible for his push as the face of the WWF in the early 80s, but his subsequent movies did not reach similar heights of success. Among his cinematic classics, Suburban Commando, Mr. Nanny, and Santa with Muscles, oh, why? But the cherry on the bad cake has to be no holds barred. Not only is it face-chewingly terrible, not only did it launch the WWF career of Zeus, which was a slow-walking disaster, but it also featured the infamous Dookie scene. This is the infamous Dookie scene.
What's that smell?
That is not acting. That is a scripted aneurysm. Number 9, his TNA run. What is TNA? The WWE will never mention them. Remember Sting's run with the company? Nope. Rob Van Dam's? Nope. Christian's? Nope. Bubba Ray? Nope. The Hulkster worked for Dixie Carter's company for 4 years and accomplished very little whilst costing him a very lot. He was one of the people responsible for TNA moving to Monday nights, where they got their asses handed to them. So, thanks Hulkster. Here's $1 million. Number 8, he wrestled Andre the Giant before. If you were to ask WWE what was Hulk Hogan's biggest match, they would say, who's Hulk Hogan? But if you ask a fan, they would say Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3, where the two perennial babyface behemoths would finally face each other after Andre did the unthinkable, allied himself with Bobby Heenan, and tore Hulk Hogan's shirt, the French Monster. It was hyped as a match of the century, the first ever, the premiere clash, the never before seen. Of course, they wrestled before. 7 years earlier, in fact, in a match at Shea Stadium, the two men fought with roles reversed. Andre as victorious babyface, Hogan during his heel run with classy Freddie Blassie as his manager. Andre pinned Hogan after a splash before the Hulkster bloodied him in revenge, a far cry from the heroic battle that would occur for the first time ever 7 years later, except it didn't because Hulk Hogan never existed. Got it? Number 7, the Monster Truck Sumo match. Just saying the words Monster Truck Sumo match has made me irreversibly dumber. It's a stupid idea at the best of times. Considering that this was also the debut match of the Giant, aka the Big Show, watching these two monsters having a shoving match in their vroom vroom cars on the roof of a building kills more brain cells than drinking a bottle of whiskey and then headbutting a bottle of whiskey. The Giant's monster truck had huge plastic teeth. Hogan's had huge plastic arms. The Giant would lose the battle of who's got the pushiest truck, then fall off the roof of the building, and then defeat Hogan for the WCW title later that night in an actual wrestling match. That is weapons grade stupid. Number 6, 1993. In 1992, after WrestleMania 8, Hogan was implicated in a steroid scandal that would shake the company to its core. It was alleged that Hogan had been supplied with steroids by a doctor at Vince McMahon's request. Hogan denied all allegations, but with public scrutiny at an all-time high, took an extended leave of absence from the WWF. He returned for a brief and fairly terrible run in 1993. After Bret Hart lost the WWF Championship to Yokozuna at WrestleMania 9, Hogan appeared out of nowhere, usurped Hart's title match, and immediately beat the Japanese Samoan for the belt in one of the worst, most ego-pandering pieces of booking in WWE history. Then, Hogan refused to drop the belt to Hart at SummerSlam in what was booked to be a grand passing of the torch from Hogan to Hart as face of the company, because Hogan didn't want to lose to, quote, a small guy, vetoed the plan and lost to Yokozuna dirty at King of the Ring instead. That was the last match he had for the company on pay-per-view until 2002, as he chose to sit out the rest of his contract. Thank goodness the Hulkster came back, because if this had been his WWE swan song, it would have been a sad affair indeed. Number 5, Mr. America. Speaking of nonsense, what can be said about Mr. America? Vince McMahon kayfabe suspended Hogan from the company, so he turned up wearing a Captain America-style blue mask, calling himself Mr. America. Who's Mr. America, people would say. The fans replied, it's Hulk Hogan. Vince McMahon said, I'm going to prove Hulk Hogan is Mr. America. The fans replied, yeah, he's Hulk Hogan. Damn it, said Vince, who is Mr. America? The fans replied, Number 4, the Russo years. The Finger Poke of Doom, Halloween Havoc 1999, Bash at the Beach 2000. All of these god-awful shenanigans took place in WCW, but they exemplify some of the worst aspects of working with Hogan. Vince Russo is, to many hardcore fans, the chuckle-brained antichrist of the wrestling world, engineering so many harebrained matches that wouldn't have looked out of place in a pornographic Looney Tunes cartoon. Under his watch, WCW descended into a swamp of convoluted portrayals, grotesque clowning, and baffling decisions. The nadir of Russo's work with Hogan was Bash at the Beach 2000. 4 years after Hogan helped rejuvenate the wrestling industry by joining the NWO, this debacle happened. It's hard to tell what was a work, i.e. a storyline, and what was a shoot, i.e. real. Hulk was supposed to lose a match against Jeff Jarrett, but refused, exercising his creative control. He and Russo then apparently came up with a scheme whereby Jarrett would lay down for Hogan, who'd win the title and leave in controversy to come back with his title for an angle somewhere down the road. However, after that went down, fans and announcers alike confused and infuriated, Russo came out and cut a savage shoot promo on Hogan and his backstage politics, calling him, amongst other things, a piece of shit. Hogan claimed that this was Russo deviating from the plan and sued him for defamation of character. Ugh, the whole thing's just... ugh. Number 3, the ultimate rematch. If you were to ask WWE what was Hulk Hogan's second biggest match, they would say, who is Hulk Hogan? How did you get in here? This is my house. But if you ask a fan, they would say Hogan versus Warrior at WrestleMania 6, when Warrior beat Hogan by jumping on him. It was a bit rubbish, but also great. 8 years later, the two met in WCW in a hugely hyped one-on-one rematch at Halloween Havoc 1998. It was balls rubbish. Dave Meltzer gave the match -5 stars, and it was voted by readers of The Observer as the worst match of the year. In terms of physicality, the match wasn't actually that different to their WrestleMania 6 match, but after almost a decade, the novelty had gone, and wrestling fans had come to expect more than two old men bumping into each other like drunk owls in a suitcase. At the tail end of the match, Hogan was supposed to throw a fireball at the Warrior with flash paper, but it instead went off in his own face, burning his eyebrows. Brilliant. The match then ended with a chair shot interference. It tarnished the memory of a classic match. It was like watching a terrible grunge band do an awful cover of a Beach Boys song. Number 2, the sex tape. There are only a few people in the world who can make a less appealing sex tape, and they are Santa Claus, John Lovitz, and this ostrich. In 2012, website Gawker.com leaked footage from the tape which showed a friend of Hogan permitting him to have sex with his wife. The concept of watching a middle-aged Hulkster bonking the wife of a man called Bubba the Love Sponge makes me sad in a fundamental way. I would rather watch a hanging than this sex tape. I would rather watch No Holds Barred, and for a man who built a legacy on telling kids to say their prayers, it's the second most destructive thing to ever happen to Hulk's image, which leads us grimly to number 1, that he ever existed at all. So here we are. The Hulkster is gone from WWE after an 8-year-old private conversation was unearthed during the ongoing legal case between Gawker and Hogan. During the conversation, Hogan ranted about his daughter sleeping with a black man using the N-word many, many times. It's like finding out that Mickey Mouse sold meth, or the famous 5 were involved in sex trafficking. For a lot of people in the world, Hulk Hogan is still the personification of wrestling, and for WWE to be forced to distance itself from their single biggest nostalgic attraction is horrendous, but that's the decision made. There are many things that WWE would like you to forget about Hulk Hogan, and the man himself is at the top of the list. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can even follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from Whatcultre.com, and I'll see you soon.